you have a skill as an addict. I don't know where the power comes from that you can hide stuff. And, I had a second personality, and it was a horrible, horrible place to be. And I hate who I was. I lost everything.
But I want to talk about, if you're okay to talk about it, is the addiction.
Yep.
Where did it start and how did it evolve?
The addiction started from, I'm not afraid to say it. You asked me if I'm afraid to say anything, but I'm not. I've been married twice before. So my very first marriage when I was a kid ended. And from that, I got a small amount of money. And for my 30th birthday, I put $1,000 on a horse. I was only telling this story yesterday. Put $1,000 on a horse and it lost. And that was back in 2000 or something like that. Fast forward to my rehab when I had become an addict. I had to do a thing called journey therapy, and they try and find out where your gambling addiction stems from. And to cut a small story short, that was it. That was that $1,000 bet. It was at my birthday. And as part of my journey therapy, I got hypnotized, and they try and go back into your life to find out where the addiction stems from. And there's a lot of times it's childhood. There's a lot of times it's trauma. Mine was that moment. And very similar to the Forrest Gump thing, when I was in this journey therapy, I was in a meditative sort of state. I had the same vision of me walking away from the horse track with all my friends behind laughing and pointing at me. And that was when my addiction started, because the next day I woke up and thought, I'm going to show these people that I can gamble. I'm a competitive bastard. I'm a driven guy. So I'm going to show these people and show myself that, hey, I lost $1,000. I can get that back because I'm good at everything. And I was a cocky young fella. Everything I had done in my life, I was succeeding. And I was going to prove that I could be a gambler and make money. So I then went to spreadsheets, and it got out of hand from there.
Yeah, and it was just kind of continually chasing your tail, yeah,
a
little bit.
Yeah, continually chasing myself and having some good success and thinking, I told you I can do this. I'll show you again tomorrow. But then having some pretty major losses and then being too proud to say, well, I'm shit at this. I'm just going to give up. I wanted to prove myself wrong. So yeah, continually chasing my tail, and then getting to the point where, I lost a lot. I lost everything. So trying to win back. And I kept this secret. See, there was no one else knew about this. No one at all. My wife at the time, who I don't know how I did it, but I hid it. I hid bank accounts. I lost houses. I lost super. I lost everything. I lost all our savings. I don't know how I did it. I couldn't do it now, but you have a skill as an addict. I don't know where the power comes from that you can hide stuff. And, I had a second personality, and it was a horrible, horrible place to be. And I hate who I was. Oh.
It's all right, mate. I honor you for sharing this, because, I know you do your running and you've done everything you're doing because you're selfish, right? But it helps other people. There'll be someone here that will hit them quite hard as well. And, there's power in that story. There's power in your story, because your story has actually led you to do what you're doing today, right? I really honor, and hey, we're men as well, right? And for me, I love seeing the vulnerability, because more of that actually, it can empower you, right?
Yeah, it can. Yeah. And the one thing I learned is that when I was going through, I can't believe how emotional I got then. One thing I learned is I didn't talk to anyone. I didn't tell a single person. I didn't even talk to myself. I didn't sit in the mirror and look at myself and say, Trav, what the hell are you doing? I just didn't talk to my mum and dad, my closest friends. And that I hate that person that was there, that was cheating, lying, but not being honest. Yeah.
So tell me, Travis, when did you realize, what was the moment that you realized, I got a problem here?
It's something I learned in rehab and through Gamblers Anonymous, is that you have a moment, just that light bulb moment, and everyone has to have one. And there's small ones that I had, but the one moment for me was I was at the Gold Coast Marathon, funnily enough, And it was early in the morning. I was in a VIP tent, so there was breakfast and they were serving drinks and there was a cash register. And I went to my bank account to put a sports bet on. And I remember the red number saying no funds left. And that was my last resort because I'd lost houses, like I said, houses, super. I'd lost everything. And I simply had no more money left. And I considered robbing the till. And that's the moment, the light bulb moment that said, hey, Trav, you're not that person, mate. You're not that bad. And that was the moment. And everyone has to have that. You have to have a moment. I had people telling me, because 7 or 8 months earlier, I came clean with my wife at the time, my mum and dad, and said, I've got a problem. And I thought that was it. I thought me coming clean was the moment. But it wasn't. I gambled the next day, and they were asking me, I lied and cheated again. It wasn't until that moment that you tell yourself to pull your head in, or you have that moment. And that moment comes too late for a lot of bloody people. I was lucky it came at a time where I'm still here. And that was it. I went to the toilet and just had a moment where I thought, I can't do this anymore. I really can't do it anymore. So I went home that night, told my wife at the time, and that was the last time I punted 11 and a half years ago. I haven't had a gamble since. It was just that moment.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, wow. Now, and you had a meeting with someone at that event as well, yeah?
Rob D. Castella.
Yeah.
This is a happy story because he doesn't know it. I did tell him once, but just him being in the toilet when I went in for that moment. So red line, thinking about stealing, went to the toilet just to regroup, and for some reason said to him, not even a hello, how are you, mate? We're just at the trough having a toilet break. I said, mate, I'm running this marathon next year. And he goes, oh, good on you. I don't even know why I said it. I have no idea. I'd never run further than 21 kilometers. I had no desire whatsoever to run a marathon, but it just came out of my mouth. So I think having Deeks there, or the fact I was at the marathon, or I don't know. I still to this day don't know why I said it, but I told him, walked outside, videoed it with my mate, so I became accountable. And that's also how Run the World started, or Run Down Under back then, is because I went home or a few days later after I'd made the call, and I tried to find a yearly training program because the marathon was a year away. So I looked up, 52-week training programs, and I couldn't find any. They're all 12 weeks, 16 weeks, 20 weeks. And then I thought, how am I going to keep running and motivated for a whole year? Because I hadn't had a program. I hadn't had a coach. I'd always run, but not structured. So that's when I thought I'm going to do this run around Australia thing that I've got. That'll keep me motivated. That'll keep me occupied. And it did. It kept me running for the 12 months to clock up the kilometers. I had that competitive element, 700 and odd people with me. So that's how it all started. And if I didn't walk in...
So you and your mate ran the marathon next year?
We both did.
Was there a few other people that jumped in as well?
No, just the two of us, really. Obviously, my family, my mum and dad did the walk. My sister did the 10K. So my whole family got involved. The Gold Coast Marathon, I thank them so much, gave me number 365. So it's sitting up behind me. I asked him if I could have that because it was 365 days since I had a gamble. It was back in the days when they did singlets and you could put your own message on them. So I had my own message of 365 days, had the number, and it was a celebration. It was, my family were there. It was a realization that, you've done well, Trav. It's been a year. And I ran the marathon.
Yeah, cool. What was your time?
4 hours and 36 seconds. A far cry from
36 seconds off under 4.
Well, it's funny because it was a far cry from the 3 hours and 30 that I thought I could do. I'd never done a marathon before, so it was a beast of a thing that took me by surprise. And I had a girl that I knew was running with me towards the end when I was really struggling. And there's a picture of me cuddling my mum and dad with about 200 meters to go, and a few other mates, and then her grabbing my arm as if to say, we've got to get under 4 hours. My head was not about the time at all. It was about that hard with my mum. It was about finishing. Once the 3 hours 30 had gone, I didn't care if it took me 6 hours. But she was determined to get me under 4 hours, but she failed. So 4 hours and 36 seconds.
Yeah. So obviously from from that kind of gambling addiction, you replaced one addiction with another addiction, which was running, right? Talk to me about, like your first run after you made that commitment that I'm running the marathon. Talk to me about your next run and how you felt moving into this next chapter of your life.
Yeah, it completely changed my love of running. It became a lot more structured. Yeah, so I distinctly remember I titled my run. So it must have been after the Gold Coast Marathon, because I remember riding 8 kilometers to pick up my car, and I'd had a few beers, so my car was somewhere, and I wrote long run. And I hadn't used Strava much before. I'd never even recorded runs. So I remember thinking, I'm obviously a runner now. I'm writing things down, I'm titling them and things like that. So I became a lot more structured in it. And I remember loving the stats and loving the progress. So from 8K long run to 10 to 11 to 12, my kilometers per week had gone up. So a little story, a few years prior to that, I tried to become a bit more of a runner, and I had a spreadsheet. This is when I was still a gambler, and I wasn't a massive drinker. Well, you might change your mind after you hear this story. But I tried to run more kilometers than I drank beers. That was my goal for a couple of years. And on both instances, come around about May, I gave up. I just couldn't run that much, is in my head. So I wasn't much of a runner distance-wise and things like that. So that's from that, where all I had was the idea of just trying to run because to overcome the beers, to now having a purpose was a big difference. And that has been instilled in me now since that 2014. I'm a numbers man. I'm a proud man. So I like to run for myself, to beat yesterday and to beat the day before. I'm running out of time because it's getting harder. I'm running more distance, doing more crazy stuff. But I love running way more than I did back in my gambling days, because it has a lot more purpose.